Hello and welcome to this new video tutorial of Magento 2 Multi-Vendor Marketplace Vendor Attribute Manager. Now this particular plugin allows the admin to create custom seller registration fields from the admin backend under the plugin configuration settings. The vendors can fill in these attributes on the registration page and can update these attributes on their vendor profile page as well. Apart from that, the customers will find all of the custom vendor attributes created by the admin on the vendor profile page. So in today's video tutorial, I'll be showing you the workflow of the same. Here you can see that I'm on the registration page right now, and here we have the default details like the personal information, sign-in information, and then we have the vendor information where we have the custom seller registration fields created by the admin from the backend, like the created from, a file to upload, a description to set up, to choose whether you support a multi-currency support or not, a field to enter the address, and the terms and conditions and the privacy policy that needs to be selected is also visible here to the marketplace vendors while they are trying to register themselves here. So they have to enter these vendor information details, or the custom seller registration fields need to be entered, and these custom registration fields that the vendor adds are visible to the customers on the seller's profile page as well. So if I go to the seller profile page here to the shoppers mart and I scroll down to the particular section, that's the about us. Here you can see the title here, that's the seller details, and here we have the few custom seller registration fields that the admin has created, like created from, description there, whether it's supporting the multi-currency or not, the address of the seller, and much more. Now the sellers would be able to edit these custom seller registration fields under their own account panel, so I'll show you that as well. For that, I'll be logging into the seller account panel first, and then I'll be going to the seller registration section, or seller profile section basically. So let me log into the seller account panel first, and then I'll be taking you to the seller profile section there. So I've logged into the seller profile. Now let me go to the my account section there. Now on my account section here, I'll go to the seller profile section, so I'll just tap on that. That would bring up the marketplace edit seller profile section. So here if I scroll down, I'll be able to find the section that's the seller details. As you can see, this is the title there, and here we have the custom registration fields that the admin has created, like the created from, file to upload, description there, whether it supports the multi-currency or not, and the address there. Now these details can be changed from here as per your own requirement. You can upload a file back, and you can change the description there, and the rest of the details can also be updated as required, and then you just need to tap here on the save attributes button. Now one more thing is there. Right now you can see that we are directly able to see the vendor information here and the custom registration fields. Now it depends upon if the admin has set the group wise seller registration, then at that time what will happen is that a group option would appear here, and after the selection of that particular group, only the custom registration fields within that particular group would be displayed to the vendor there before he can enter those custom registration fields for registration at the storefront there itself. So I'll be showing you that in a while from now, but before we proceed further, please do subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon to receive the latest updates from our end. And if you find this particular video helpful, then do kindly give it a thumbs up. So this was how the custom registration fields appears at the registration page to the vendors under the vendor information section, how they can view and how they can edit those under their own seller profile section, and how the customers can view those custom seller registration fields on the seller's profile page under the about us section there, under the seller details section itself. Now let me take you to the admin backend panel, and now let me show you how the admin would be able to create the attributes there and the groups there and the rest of the flow, along with the initial configurations that are required for this particular plugin. So for that, let me take you to the admin backend panel now. So we'll be logging into the admin backend panel by entering the username, password, and tapping on the sign in button thereafter. So right now I've logged into the admin backend panel, but before proceeding further, please note that this particular plugin is an add-on to the Magento 2 Multi-Vendor Marketplace by Webkul. So you'll have to have that first before making use of the marketplace vendor attribute manager plugin itself. Now to check the options that the admin gets after the installation of this particular plugin, the admin will have to navigate to the marketplace management section, and here we have the attribute manager. Under that we have the attribute manager and the attribute group manager. Now under the attribute manager you'll be able to manage the different attributes, and under the attribute group manager you'll be able to create the different groups and assign different attributes that you have created under the attribute manager there. Now let's hop on to the attribute manager first, and let's see how we can create the attributes there. So for that, let me take you to the attribute manager section. So here you'll find a complete list of attributes that you've created. Here you can see that we have the address, multi-currency support, description, file, and the created from that were visible on the seller profile page as well on the registration page there. Now let's come back. Now here you can do a multiple number of options there, or you get a multiple number of options that can be applied to the created attributes. Like you can delete, you can manage the display fields, whether to display on the seller profile page or hide from the seller profile page. You can set the attribute status as enable, disable. You can set the assign attribute to whether customer, seller, or both, and you can also choose to assign the group to a particular selected attribute by assigning a group to a particular attribute there. To create a new attribute, you just need to tap here on the add attribute button, and that will bring up the new attribute page wherein we have to enter the details of the new attribute there. So here we need to enter the details of the new attribute that we are going to create. So we can set up the label. For now I'll set it as do you sell products. For example, I'll set the attribute code as test. You can choose the front-end input type for the custom registration fields like text field, text area, date, yes, no option, multiple select, drop down, media, image, or the file as per your own requirement. For now I'll be choosing a yes or a no. You can make the values as required or not. I'll set the inputs field sort order for this particular attribute. You can also assign a group to this one. So if you have already created a group there, you can select that group from this particular section, and you can assign a group to this particular attribute that you are going to create, and then you can choose the attribute to be used for both the customer or the seller, or only the sellers. So for now we'll be selecting it as seller, and we'll be choosing it as seller additional account info as the group there. And under the manage labels, we'll set the label for this for our default vendor panel and the separate vendor panel view as well. And then you just need to tap here on the save attribute button to save the particular attribute there, and you will see that the attribute would be saved thereafter. So you can see that the attribute has been saved and is visible here. Now if you want to show it in the seller profile, you can select it up, and from the drop down you can choose manage display fields and display on seller profile. Right now it's showing no. After selecting the display on seller profile as yes there, we'll see that now it will show yes on the show in seller profile. You can also assign this one if you want. If you haven't assigned any group to it, you can assign a group to it as well from here as per your own requirement. Now the other thing that comes up is the attribute group manager. So let me show you that. So under the attribute group manager, we'll be able to create multiple attribute groups there. So here you'll find the complete listing of the attribute groups that you have created. You can manage them as well. You can set their status as enable or disable. You can delete them as well as required. And to add a new group, you have to tap here on the add new group button, and that will bring up the section to create a new attribute group. And here you can set the group name. For example, let's set it as test group. I'll set it as enabled. If you want to assign any attributes, right now we haven't assigned any, not a problem, and tap on the save group thereafter. Now after you've saved this particular group, the group would be listed here as you can see, test group. Now if I go back to my attribute manager section, here if I go to this particular section, that's the attribute that I created, do you sell products. From the drop down, if I choose group, assign group, I can now assign the group to the test group as well, or to the other ones as required there by the admin himself. So that was about the marketplace management and attribute manager, creation of the attributes, attribute groups, how to create the groups. Now let me take you to the admin backend panel, and let me show you how the admin would be able to make the initial configuration settings there. So for that you have to navigate through stores, and then configuration. On the configuration page, under the Webkul block, we have the marketplace. Under the marketplace, you have to go to the vendor attribute settings. So here we have two different configuration settings that need to be done. One is the vendor attribute settings and the terms and conditions and the privacy settings. So let's go to the vendor attribute settings first. Here we can see that the first option here is to make it visible on the registration page. So whatever attributes that you have created, if you want to enable them on the registration page, you'll have to choose this option as a yes. If you want to display the creative registration or the custom registration fields on the seller profile as well, then you'll have to choose this option as a yes. Then if you want to display the files on the vendor profile, you'll have to choose this option as a yes or a no as required. Then we have the display registration fields group wise. You can select this option as a yes or a no. So display registration fields according to group wise. So if you remember, we were seeing the custom registration fields under the additional information there, and all of these custom registration fields were visible there to the vendors on the registration page. But if this particular option here is set as yes, then the groups would be displayed here. So the vendor needs to select a particular group, and according to the selected group, the custom registration fields would be displayed, and those are then to be filled up by the vendor to complete his registration there. So this is the option for the display registration fields group wise. Then we have image display on the vendor profile. So if you want to display the image on the vendor profile there, so that the customers can also access it on the vendor's profile, then you have to select this option as a yes. Then for the image display, you'll have to choose the allowed image extensions. These would be the extensions that would be allowed for the images there that are uploaded on the vendor profile there. After that, we have the allowed file extensions. So here you need to enter the file type separated by a comma, and these will be the allowed file extensions that can be used for uploading by the sellers there. Then you have the seller profile label. This is the label that is visible to the sellers there when they are editing their seller profile page and checking out the custom registration fields. The heading would be the seller details. The same heading would be on the seller profile page under the about us section when the customers are accessing the custom registration field details there for the respective sellers. So this was about this vendor attribute settings. Now coming to the terms and conditions and the privacy settings. Here you can enable the terms and conditions on the vendor registration page by choosing a yes. Then as we saw, then the terms and conditions and the privacy policy would be visible at the last of the custom registration fields. You can also enable the terms and conditions on the customer registration page if you want. Then you can set up the privacy policy model heading. This would be the link or the model heading for the privacy policy. This would be for the terms and conditions. You can set up the model button text. So whenever you are tapping on the link there or the hyperlink for the privacy policy, the pop-up that comes up, within that pop-up we have an OK button to close the pop-up. This is the model button text for that. Here you can select the button text color, button color, a button background color. You can also choose the model animation type for the pop-up there, whether it should be a pop-up or should slide from right to left. You can also show the content as text or HTML as required. You can set up the terms and conditions here and the privacy policy and the cookie policy for your terms and conditions and for your privacy policy as well. And thereafter you just need to tap here on the save configuration button to save the configuration settings. Now let me give you an example for this particular section that we were talking about was display registration fields group wise. So I've set it as yes. Let me save the configuration, and now let me take you to the front end here and let me refresh this page once. So after the refreshment, you can see that we have the personal information, sign-in information, and now here we have the option to select the customer group. So from the drop down you can see the group, the test group that I had created. So if I select that up, the particular assigned what we say as the registration fields would be displayed. Similarly, if I choose seller edition account information, the particular seller registration fields would be displayed. For the customer edition account information, the respective fields would be displayed here as required there. So that's how the thing here works. That's under here. That's the display registration fields group wise. So group wise we can display the registration fields for the vendors there. Accordingly they can select their particular group, and according to their selected group the different custom registration or the seller registration fields would be displayed that needs to be filled by the vendors at the time of registration there. So yes, that was much about the Magento 2 multi-vendor marketplace vendor attribute manager plugin, and I hope it helped you out in understanding the workflow of the same. If you still have any questions, queries, suggestions or requirements, then kindly do reach back to us at support@webkul.com, or you can raise a ticket at webkul.uvidesk.com as well. Apart from that, if you find this particular video helpful, then do kindly give it a thumbs up. And lastly, thanks for watching this particular video and have a great day ahead.